Today, we're diving into the story of a band that basically defined a moment, a sound, and a whole city. We're talking sharp suits, dark moods, and a guitar tone you can spot from a mile away. Okay, let's get into the story of Interpol.
So, I want you to picture this. It's the turn of the millennium in New York City. The air is just electric with this new kind of energy. Down in clubs like the Luna Lounge, a whole scene is brewing. It's moody, it's stylish, and it's this raw, powerful revival of rock and roll.
And smack dab in the middle of all that, you had Interpol. Along with bands like The Strokes and The National, they pretty much became one of the defining voices of that whole era, creating a sound that felt like something you'd heard before, but also like nothing else.
So, what was it about their sound? What made them so iconic right out of the gate? Let's break it down.
This really gets to the heart of their sonic DNA. What Interpol did and what they did so well was take the atmospheric, kind of gloomy vibe of bands like Joy Division and the sharp, angular guitar work of Echo and the Bunnymen, and then filter all of it through this very specific, very cool New York lens. The result is just precise, propulsive, and incredibly moody. But here's the thing, this amazing signature sound, it came from a group of guys who almost didn't even happen. So let's rewind a bit and look at how this whole thing actually started.
Okay, so it all kicks off with the guitarist Daniel Kessler. He was really the driving force. He meets the bassist Carlos Dengler in a philosophy class at NYU, of all places. Then he gets back in touch with a singer he'd met years before while he was in France, and that was Paul Banks. I mean, talk about a series of chance encounters, right? These little moments ended up changing music history.
And this quote from Kessler, wow, it just perfectly sums up how close this all came to never happening. It really drives home the fact that the band we know today wasn't some grand plan. It was born out of pure persistence and, frankly, a little bit of luck.
Well, that persistence, it absolutely paid off, leading to, honestly, one of the most celebrated and important debut albums of the 21st century.
So the band's rise was pretty quick, but also really steady. A huge turning point was in 2000, when Sam Fogarino took over on drums, locking in that classic lineup. Just 2 years later, they signed with the legendary indie label Matador and dropped 2 albums that would become absolute cornerstones of the genre.
And you can really see that momentum building right here. Turn On the Bright Lights was kind of the slow burn, a critical darling that found its audience over a couple of years, but with Antics, man, the fuse was lit. It sold more in just 4 months than the debut had in 2 whole years. It was proof that Interpol wasn't just a band for the critics. They were becoming a massive commercial force.
But of course, with that kind of success come new challenges. And the next phase for the band was really going to test them.
So in 2006, they make the big jump. They go from being these beloved indie darlings to signing with a major label, Capitol Records, for their 3rd album. This was a huge deal, but it also brought a ton of new pressures and a much, much bigger spotlight.
But the biggest shakeup, the one that really changed everything, came in 2010. Founding member Carlos Dengler, the guy whose iconic bass lines weren't just background noise, they were often the lead melody, he left the band after they finished their 4th album.
So that just raises this huge question, right? How does a band survive losing a member who is so fundamental to their signature sound? What do you even do?
Well, they adapted. Their frontman, Paul Banks, who was already the singer and a guitarist, he just stepped up and took over bass duties in the studio, and for their live shows, they brought in touring musicians to help fill out that sound. It was a smart, creative pivot that let the core of the band keep moving forward.
And they absolutely did move forward. In this last section, we're going to see how the next chapter wasn't just about surviving, it was about cementing their legacy and proving they were here to stay.
Fast forward to 2017, and we get this huge moment, especially for longtime fans. The band goes on this massive anniversary tour, playing their debut album Turn On the Bright Lights from start to finish for its 15th anniversary. It was just this incredible reminder of how powerful and timeless that album really is.
And this whole idea of revisiting their classic work became a really powerful thing for them. Just this year, in 2024, they did it again, celebrating the 20th anniversary of their 2nd album, Antics, with another huge tour, which just further cemented the fact that their early albums are, well, modern classics.
But here's the thing, it wasn't just about nostalgia. As you can see, the band has been consistently putting out new, really strong music. Albums like El Pintor and Marauder proved that they could keep evolving their sound without ever losing that core thing that makes them Interpol.
And all of this kind of culminates in what has to be a career-defining moment, especially with their huge, passionate fan base in Latin America. In 2024, Interpol played a free show in Mexico City's Zocalo Square to a crowd of 160,000 people. Just think about that, the single largest crowd of their entire career.
So yeah, from the tiny, sweaty clubs of downtown New York to commanding a literal sea of fans in one of the world's biggest public squares, Interpol's journey is all about resilience. They didn't just define a scene, they've completely outlasted it and created this body of work that, still resonates with people all over the world.
So, they've proven they're legends. They've proven they can still innovate, which leaves us with this one last fascinating question to think about. What is the next chapter for a band that has already built such an incredible legacy?